What is the most physically painful experience you've had?
Had a cyst removed. Found out the next day the doctor nicked a blood vessel during the surgery. Had it stitched, closed with no anesthesia.
I was bitten by a rattlesnake. On the ankle. My whole leg swelled up immensely. Would not recommend.
Esophageal rupture. That wasn't fun.
Flaming marshmallow at a campfire to the eye. Molten marshmallow to the eye is very unpleasant.
I perforated my eardrum in a water skiing accident. Then I got the hiccups on the ride to the ER.
It's a tie between gallstones and gout.
Receiving Adriamycin chemo. The side effects made me wish for death at times.
Kidney stone. 6 millimeters, peed it out.
Toss up between kidney stones and appendix bursting. Wanted to die.
Shattered my ankle getting hit by a car while walking. That wasn't the most painful part. Went to hospital to set it cool. Was transferred to another hospital after a couple days closer to home. They took x-rays and realized the set was not good, so they had to re-break my ankle and set it correctly. That part hurt the most. Edit, it's possible they didn't re-break it per se, but they did have to reset it, and that pain was intense. I was also low priority that night due to gunshot victims in the hospital. I had been waiting in the hallway on a stretcher for hours, until I was brought to some makeshift area, and therefore I don't remember getting any extra pain meds as I was not put under or sedated.
Stabbed myself in the eye with a tree branch, which etched what they described as a bat symbol into my cornea. Then had recurrent corneal erosion for 18 months. So think of the worst eye pain imaginable, then repeat daily. It was brutal.
I was cleaning a fish on a boat and I accidentally popped its bile sac. Squirted me right in the eye. For like 12 hours after it felt like my eye was melting and full of broken glass. Was so painful I spent the whole time screaming in pain uncontrollably. Since I was on a boat in the middle of the sea there was no access to medical help. So they just gave me a thing of eye drops and sent me back to work with eye patch. For the next 2 weeks I could only see out of one eye and for some reason it was painfully sensitive to light. So I had to blink rapidly with my working eye while working my 18-hour shift while my asshole coworkers made pirate jokes about me. It was a bad trip.
When my spinal cord collapsed down onto the nerves going to my legs, I legitimately wanted to die.
I have cluster headaches. When it gets very bad I legit think about jumping out of the window. It's like someone stabbing your head with a glowing hot knife. And the best part is that you cannot really do something about it.
Had an abscessed tooth. For 2 weeks, my life was nothing but absolute misery, and nothing would kill the pain. At one point, the dentist had to drip numbing agents on the exposed root because it would not freeze, and that felt like a hot needle being jammed behind my eye. Cue a new dentist phobia that has me terrified to even call them when I know there's an issue.
I once thought I snapped my dick. The pain made me see a bright white light, then everything started to go dark, and I thought I was going to black out.
An ovarian endometric cyst rupturing. I remember taking about 10 minutes to crawl down the stairs to get to the phone so I could call my mom, 100% convinced I was dying.
That time a neurosurgeon drilled out the base of my skull, installed a plate there, and then drilled holes in my top 2 vertebrae to connect it all. Excruciating pain for months, but the worst was the first 2 weeks. Anytime the pain meds wore off, I was in hell. It felt like nothing I've ever experienced before or since. I became an animal. I wasn't capable of human thought or anything but screaming. It continued for a long time in a more muted way. When I tried to turn my head reflexively, when I accidentally shifted it forward. But the worst by far was when I tried to sleep, because I had no control over my movements then. I just woke up screaming many times each night. There was no escape. I was tired all the time, terrified of falling asleep again, but also terrified of every potential movement. I had a very secure neck brace on 24/7 for months, but nothing was enough to stop this pain.
Perforated bowel.
Kidney stones.
Shingles. I was 30. It's not just old people.
Broke my pelvis in multiple places. Read the wrong x-rays and sent me home. 3 days later, I finally got to ortho after begging, and they immediately started treating. My right leg was basically not attached due to how badly I was broken. Idiot doc said nothing wrong and gave me crutches. Just no.
My gallbladder failing. I was young and deployed overseas when it finally kicked the bucket. By the time I got to professionals who knew WTF was going on, I had a fully necrotic gallbladder in me that was sectioned off with a 3 mm mucous membrane. I hadn't eaten for days, kept doing combat patrols, and somehow didn't die. It's all a haze after that, but I was evac'd all the way out to Germany and then spent a few months recovering. Good times.
Tonsillectomy recovery process. I read about rabies and the fear of water, and somehow I understand it during my recovery process. Every time you swallows water, your throat tries to regurgitate it back out, but even the act of vomiting is painful by itself. Not to mention the scar recovery makes you want to cough every time, but afraid of opening your surgery scar. Also kidney stones.
When I stepped on a nail sticking out of one of my stairs. This happened when I was getting ready for a baseball game when I was 7.
Twisted testicle. Wow, I didn't expect this to be such a common occurrence. Sorry you all had to go through that as well.
My BM after the 8th day of 11 in the hospital on morphine. It took an enema to loosen it a bit, then a gloved nurse had to assist by pulling the initial blockage out. It was on at that point. I filled the bedpan. It looked like a mountain when I was done. I was in tears. It was brutally painful.
9 mm bullet in the chest.
Anal fissure. Stop sitting on the pot for half an hour, folks. Your pooper does not like that sustained pressure.
Having a miscarriage. As bad as my cramps are, so bad that I throw up, this was worse. I went ghost white, had cold sweats, BP was 220/100, was sobbing without tears, and couldn't breathe. The pain was so intense. Work rushed me out in an ambulance because I couldn't walk. It was during COVID, so I had to face the miscarriage alone, which made it even harder.